Is this thing on?
Hello everyone, Callum here. It's been a long time, I know, but hopefully you enjoy this kind of different style of video I'm going to do. Moving away from games just for a little bit. Today I want to talk about music, because I had a weird conversation with a friend the other day. So obviously with music, everyone has different tastes, just the same as opinion. Some people like heavy metal, some others like R&B, some people like K-pop, J-rock, whatever. But when people ask me and they go, what kind of music are you into, Callum? I'm like that Hadouken song. I kind of turn around and say a bit of everything, really. It's kind of difficult for me to pinpoint where specifically my music tastes lie. Now, that being said, I do tend to lean towards heavier music as well as electronic dance, and lately more than a bit of rap as well. Kendrick Lamar's kind of blowing my mind right now. But yeah, let's roll this back. Had a conversation with a friend the other day, and it kind of got onto like our music taste, but how we got our music taste, and that got me thinking. Like, and that's the purpose of this video. Like, 3 albums that shaped my taste in music. Doesn't have to be my favorite albums, although 3 are in my top 5. But they're more albums that maybe came at a certain point in my life that I then altered course in maybe what I was listening to and started searching out more of this that specific style. That being said, let's dive right into the first one. R2002. 11-year-old me? Yeah, 11-year-old me. First year of secondary school. Bit of a social outcast, didn't really have many friends, but desperately trying to get in with the people who I deemed to be cool at the time. I decided I wanted to listen to heavier music because that was what they were into, and I was still into listening to Hive and whatnot at home on the CD player that we had because that was all I owned. You skip forward to probably November, December of that year, and one of the guys at school lends me Songs for the Deaf, the seminal album by Queens of the Stone Age, and what is now, I can say, is my gateway drug into rock music. From the moment that the first track starts, the slamming shut of the car door, the flicking of the engine turning on, the radio turning on to clone radio because they spoil music for everyone. It just starts and it doesn't stop. Like the fast pace, the aggression, and halfway through the album we slow down. Songs like Sky is Falling is more trippy, kind of hippie style. Go with the Flow picks it right back up, and obviously by now No One Knows is kind of one of those anthemic tracks that almost anyone with a passing interest in rock music knows of, even if they don't like it. That album became my soundtrack to it became the soundtrack to Wind Waker for me I think it was just in the new year I got that. From start to finish, that album, from start to finish, the game, I would listen to both in tandem. Like, now I regret that because the soundtrack to Wind Waker is incredible and it's regularly played on YouTube for me. But that band and that album in particular was like the tip of the iceberg. That was me just dipping my hand into that rabbit hole of rock music and eventually kind of sidestepping more towards metal. So your bands like Trivium and Slipknot, Atreyu, The Curse by Atreyu was kind of an evolutionary step from Songs for Dead for me. Completely different themes, completely different keys of music, but it still kind of was that evolution. I kind of stepped in the door with, I got my foot in the door with Songs for the Deaf, and then The Curse kind of ripped it wide open for me. That's all I can really say. 15 years later, I can still listen to this album and love it every single time. Just full of incredible tracks. A Song for the Dead, I would say, is a must listen. Even at the end of the track where they think it's ended, and then Dave Grohl, you just hear him go, "What?" before having to pick up the drum beat again because they all tricked him and they were still recording. It just, it's just brilliant. Just brilliant. Okay, so if Queens of the Stone Age was my gateway to rock music, then the Lawrence Arms was like the shepherd's crook that kind of took me left stage towards punk rock. I have a lot to owe towards an old best friend of mine that used to live around the road from me when we were younger. He was the one that kind of took my passing interest in rock music and then cultivated that. So I kind of started to get into underground ska punk bands from the UK scene. So you got your Cat Down, you've got Lightyear, you've got King Prawn, Captain Everything, all of these kind of underground bands. But then he also really enjoyed American punk rock. So NoFX, Green Day, Dookie, like that album on repeat all the time. Basket Case was my favourite track for the longest time just because of the drumming. But anyway, we're sidetracking. The Lawrence Arms, I can't remember exactly when he showed me this album, but The Greatest Story Ever Told is, in my opinion, the greatest concept album ever told. It's based on something along the lines of like an old Russian novel between like three actors, or it deals with the themes of circus and just a lot of stuff in general, like because they kind of transpose that towards their life in Chicago and all of that stuff. It's what hooked me though. It was the duality of the singers and the duality of the album in general. It was kind of schizophrenic in a way because you had the really aggressive, fast, punchy songs of On With The Show, The March of the Elephants and stuff like that, but then it kind of goes straight from there into a contemplative, like almost melancholy, depressive tracks of like The Roaring Searing Flesh, Fireflies, A Wishful Puppeteer, Chapter 13, The Hero Appears, all of these kinds of tracks, but they fit so well together. And it was the guitars, it was, you know, like the frenetic guitars that kind of got me into it, and then you listen to the lyrics and everything, and I don't know, just really struck a chord with me. I didn't really know how long I was going to hold that on for, let's be honest. If it wasn't for this album, I probably would only have a passing interest in punk rock. But because of the Lawrence Arms, I then got like straight down into it, like bands like the Flatliners, NoFX, Rancid, Transplants, and then obviously you got stuff like Blink-182 and everything like that. But like the Flatliners in particular took what the Lawrence Arms were, in my opinion, turned it up to 11, and the Flatliners are now probably one of my favourite bands going, even if their latest album was a complete left field pitch. It was completely different to what I was anticipating, and probably everyone as well. Still good, just not exactly what I was expecting. But yeah, The Greatest Story Ever Told. Yeah, songs like Fireflies, On With The Show, still my alarm clock for like the past 10 years or so now. And A Wishful Puppeteer, definitely standout tracks from that. So I definitely recommend you listen to that one as well. Okay, so I left this album last, despite being the first album out of the three that I'd listened to. Very specific reason for it. Album is Reanimation by Linkin Park, and in my opinion, the best Linkin Park album. You can laugh if you want to. I don't know why. This album was just, I don't know. It was something that just completely flipped my opinion on music on its head. To take rap rock in general, I mean, Crawling was well, it was played more than a couple of times at school discos over the years. And whilst it was good, fantastic album, Reanimation, for some reason to me, just took it to another level. I don't know if it was because I was still in my pop tendencies and the more underground kind of sound to it was appealing to me. But I remember getting this for Christmas and expecting it to be a completely different album. I didn't realize at the time that this was a like remix album. I just expected it to be another Linkin Park album. I was expecting more screaming from Chester, like more tight lyrics from Mike and everything like that. Popped it in the CD player whilst me and my brother were drag racing Nissan Skylines on Need for Speed Underground 2. And the moment in the end came on. The end, if they really want to be pedantic about it. Like, I just paused the game. Like, I just started looking. I was like, this isn't Linkin Park. I remember getting really angry because I was like, this isn't Linkin Park. I think I bought the wrong CD. But yeah, I was wrong. And then the more I listened to it, the more I enjoyed it. The more I listened to the rapping, it was just, I don't know, something took over me. It was infectious almost. The beats helped. Joe Harm went crazy on the remixing, so did Mike. Obviously it was produced by Mike in general, but guest rappers like Ace Shalone, you got Executioners on there as well as Motion Man. I think they all kind of got their break because of Linkin Park. But I listened to this album enough times and I can't go back to Hybrid Theory and listen to that album without, in my head, having the Reanimation version playing instead. Sounds a bit odd, but yeah, I can't go to In the End without doing the Reanimation version lyrics. Crawling, I prefer the slowed down version that they did on Reanimation. I'm kind of babbling here, but yeah, Reanimation was kind of, I think, probably the most important album that I've ever listened to, because it showed to me that you don't need to have heavy guitars. You don't need to have a, I don't know, like a catchy pop hook. You don't need songs about love or anything like that. You can be angsty. You can talk about like the struggle on the streets, the struggle that I didn't know about when I was younger, but it sounded cool to me. It just kind of, I don't know, rolled all of these ideas together and it just really appealed to me. And from there, rap music, lately especially, just really taken over me. So I think I have a lot to thank for with regards to that album. So those were the 3 albums that I deemed to kind of shape my music taste. There are 2 other albums though that I would argue could be just as important as those 3. I'm going to kind of give them honourable mentions anyway. So the first one is Catch for Us the Foxes by Me Without You. Now, when I got introduced to this band, I was desperately trying to be emo. I mean, everyone was listening to My Chemical Romance, Hawthorne Heights, all of that jazz, but I don't know, they kind of weren't for me. I listened to 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, but that was about it, really. Old school friend of mine in 6th form introduced me to Me Without You by showing me a video for January 1979. I don't understand why, but the voice of the lead singer, Aaron Weiss, he just, I don't know, he captured me in the least morbid way possible. And I stress this, I love the sound of desperation. I love because it's, in my opinion, like the most raw form of passion. If you're that desperate, it shows that you truly, truly care about something. And luckily, at the time, I was working, RIP Woolworths, and I had enough money to download Catch for Us the Foxes off of iTunes. The songs, they're depressing. They are. That's the only way you can describe them. The album itself, there's no hope. There is no hope. But there's such a playful tone to his lyrics. You know, even during January 1979, he turns around and says, "I was floating in a peaceful sea, rescued by a sinking ship." There's so many references to the Bible. That's why they kind of like were some Christian new rock band at the time. I wasn't particularly religious, but I appreciated the references, and I went back and tracked those references and kind of made the connection and appreciated the album even more for what he was doing. It went to show to me that meaningful lyrics don't need to have high production value. Like, lyrics and music production are two completely different things. I mean, if you listen to the album yourself, Thank You Ambulance or Police Car, you go back and listen to that. The guitar mixing with the bass and drums and that, it's kind of all over the place. Like, the production value is kind of a little bit poor, but the lyrics, they still stand true. It stirred genuine emotion within me, like my little emo self at the time. And it did more for me than I think any album actually ever did in terms of relating to anything. And then last up, kind of bring it back up a little bit, we have Endless Fantasy by Anamanaguchi. Now, whilst not exactly old, this album is definitely worth mentioning, because it's, I don't know, it is more of an evolution of my taste than shaping it, but it definitely solidified what I really love, video games. Obviously, video game soundtracks, so you got your stuff like Mario, you've got your Sonics, like those iconic soundtracks. I didn't think that they could really be replicated. Like, okay, somebody on a computer can get like a MIDI keyboard and start bashing out some random tunes and that. But Anamanaguchi took NES consoles, they took Genesis, they took N64s, they modified them and used them as instruments to create these songs. And Endless Fantasy is like the kind of the perfect example of people who did stuff for fun and just made it incredible. If you listen to that album, it's like 70 minutes of a pure sugar rush. It's from start to finish, it's high tempo, there's no like calm down, there's no like peaceful moments. It's all like, you'd be mistaken to think that it was a soundtrack to a video. Like, you could easily slot Viridian Genesis into Mega Man and make it work. Japan Air into Super Fast Sonic Stage or something like that, and it would still work. I mean, the only reason I kind of got into this band anyway was because of them doing a soundtrack to a video game. They did the Scott Pilgrim downloadable game that came out, well, near enough alongside the movie anyway. But yeah, every morning for about a year or so, I would listen to the titular track, Endless Fantasy, and that would do me for the day. Like, I'd be pumped, I'd be energized, I'd be ready to do anything that the day had to throw at me. Which at the time was like 16-hour days, so kind of good thing, really. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you want to, you can go into the comments below. Let me know what you think of these albums, if you know, go and listen to them or give me an opinion or something like that. Or even better yet, if you have 3 albums that you think like shaped your taste in music, then pop them in the comments. I'll give them a listen to. Let's see, you know, we can compare, we can have a conversation. Anyway, I've been Callum. Have a good week. Stay safe. Peace.